Hi friends, in this tutorial series, we'll be implementing examples using Spring Boot 3 and gRPC. In this tutorial, we'll be looking at what is a gRPC trailer and how it is used for gRPC error handling. For this, I'll be taking reference of my website javanews.com. So go to Spring Boot 3. In Spring Boot 3, go to Spring Boot 3 gRPC examples. The example that we'll be looking at today is Spring Boot gRPC error handling using trailer metadata. In a previous tutorial, we implemented Spring Boot gRPC error handling hello world example. So go to this example here. In this example, we implemented the client and the server. So the server, whenever an error occurred, it returned back the gRPC error code and description back to the client. You can go through the YouTube video here to better understand this tutorial. In this tutorial, we'll be further modifying this hello world example to send additional error information along with what is called as gRPC trailers. Also in another tutorial, we'll be further modifying this example to implement global exception handler using gRPC advice. So in the example that we had implemented before, in case of an error, the gRPC server, it returns back the gRPC error status code and description back to the client. Now suppose we have a scenario where the gRPC server along with the gRPC error status code and description, it needs to pass some more additional information back to the client. Suppose it needs to send application specific error information back to the client. So how will the gRPC server do it? This is where the trailer metadata it comes into picture. So in such a scenario where along with the gRPC error status code and description, the gRPC server it needs to return back additional error information back to the client, we make use of this trailer metadata which will be having this additional information. So let us have a look at what are trailers in gRPC. In gRPC, trailers are a special kind of header that is sent after the message data. They are used internally to communicate the outcome of an RPC. At the application level, custom trailers can be used to communicate things that are not directly part of the data, such as server utilization and query cost. Also, trailers, they can be sent only by the server. So in gRPC, using trailers, we can provide additional information or context at the end of an RPC response or response stream. Trailers are sent as a part of the RPC's trailing metadata that is sent after the main response data. So here if you'll see, the client, it sends the gRPC request. Along with this gRPC request, we also send headers that are sent to the server. Now the server again responds back with the gRPC response, which has the headers. So once the gRPC response has been sent, it also sends gRPC trailers. So in this gRPC trailers, we'll be sending additional gRPC error handling information. Let us begin with the implementation part. So we'll be modifying the code that we had implemented before. So we have already seen this. So you can go through the YouTube video here that we had done for this Spring Boot gRPC hello world example. If we go down below here, we have the source code. Download this. The source codes that we just downloaded, these are Maven projects, so import them in Eclipse. So here we have the Boot Unary gRPC server and Boot Unary gRPC client. Build these projects, run as Maven build, and use the command eclipse clean install. Similarly, run the client. So here the build is successful. Now we have two projects, the client and the server. So we had implemented an example where the client, it needs the account balance for a particular account number. So it sends a request to the gRPC server. The gRPC server then returns the account balance for that particular account number. So let us have a look at the proto file. So here we have the message account request. So this is the request sent by the client to the server and it has the account number for which we want the account balance. Then we have the account balance response. So this is the response that is sent by the server back to the client. So it has the account number and the corresponding balance for this particular account number. So at the server end, we have a service named account balance service, which has a method named getBalance, which takes the account request, processes it and returns back the account balance response. At the gRPC server end, we have implemented this account balance service. So here we have a back account balance service which is implementing this account balance service IMPL base. So in this class, we have a method named getAccountBalance that takes the account request, processes this account request and returns back the account balance response. Now in previous Spring Boot gRPC error handling example, we had implemented a scenario where suppose due to some reason the database it is down. So the service it cannot fetch the account balance corresponding to a particular account number, that is account 5. In such a scenario, the gRPC server it returns back the status not found back to the client and along with it the description that the requested account number cannot be found. So let us test this code. We'll start the Spring Boot gRPC server. So run as Java application. So here the gRPC server it has started on port 8090. Now the client, if you go to source bin Java, here in the service name bank service, using the gRPC stub, we make a call to the getAccountBalance method of the gRPC server. To this we pass the account number for which we want the account balance. So here it is account 5. So at the gRPC server end for account 5, we are going to return a status not found exception along with the description. So at the client, we catch the status runtime exception and we just print the status code and the description. So let us run the gRPC client code, run as Java application. So here at the client end, we are catching the exception and printing the status code that is not found, and also the description, that is the requested account number, it cannot be found. Now suppose at the gRPC server end, along with the status not found and the description, we also want to send some more application specific error information to the client. So how can we do that? So here along with the with description, we have something known as with cause. So in the with cause, we'll be setting the cause for which this particular exception is happening. So if you look at this, the with cause, it needs a throwable instance. So next we'll be creating a custom exception, which will be setting it in the with cause method. We'll be creating an exception named account not found exception. So if for a particular account number, the account balance cannot be found, then we'll be throwing this account not found exception. So go to Eclipse and create a new class here. Package will be com.javainit.bank.service. Copy the contents of this class. Next, as discussed before, in the with cause method, we'll be passing a new instance of the account not found exception. So here we are passing the message database error connection refused for this account not found exception. Copy this. In the with cause method, we'll be setting this new instance. Import this. So now at the gRPC server end, if the account number, it is account 5, then we are returning back the status code as not found along with the description and also with the cause back to the client. So at the client end, once we get this exception, out of this we get the status. So currently we are just printing the code and the description. So let us now also print the cause. Here we'll be having get cause. So we are done with the code changes. Let us now test them. So start the gRPC server. Here it has started on port 8090. Now let us run the gRPC client. So here at the gRPC client end, we get the cause as null. So even though from the server we are setting the cause, but at the client end we are not able to find it. So if you look at the with cause method here, it says here that this cause is not transmitted from the server to the client. So the gRPC server does not send this with cause information back to the client. But now the client, it needs this information, that is database error connection refused. So how will we send this additional information from the server back to the client? This is where we'll be making use of the trailer metadata. So we'll be passing this additional error information from the server to the client using trailer metadata. For this, we'll need to modify the proto file that is present at both the gRPC server as well as the client end. So in the proto file, we'll be creating a message named custom error that has two fields, error type and message. So let us make this change. Go to Eclipse. So I'll first stop this project here. Now go to the proto file. And here I'll be adding a message custom error. Make a similar change for the proto file at the client end. Now build this project again. Similarly build it for the client also. So using this custom error message, we'll be passing any additional information that is to be passed from the server to the client. So here go to the bank account balance service. Here we'll be creating a metadata instance. So this metadata, it is somewhat similar to a map. So if you look at the put method here, in order to insert a value of type T, we need a key which will be of type key of T. So in order to insert a customer error as value in this metadata, we'll first need to create a key of customer error which will be used as a key. So next we create a key of custom error using the proto-utils.key for proto, to which we pass the custom error default instance. Once we create a customer error key, it acts as a key in the metadata corresponding to which we'll be inserting the customer error instance. So here we create a new instance of customer error, to which we pass the message database error connection refused, and also set the error type as connection refused. Next we create the status runtime exception. So for the status not found, we attach the description, convert it to runtime exception, and also pass the metadata that we had just created, which has the custom error. We pass this status runtime exception to the onError method of the response observer, and we return back. Let us make these changes. Go to Eclipse. Next we'll be making changes corresponding to this metadata at the gRPC client end. So once we catch the status runtime exception, using this exception we get the status. So from the status, using the trailers from throwable method, we get the metadata. So the custom error instance, in this metadata, we are storing it corresponding to a customer error key. So we'll first need to create a customer error key. So here we create a customer error key. Again we make use of the proto-utils.key for proto method, to which we pass the customer error default instance. Once we get the key, then using this key we get the customer error from the metadata, and we are just printing out the customer error. Let us make this change at the client end. Go to bank service. Here we'll not be needing the get cause. And so here we are done with the code changes. Let us now test these. So run as Java application. This will start the gRPC server on port 8090. Let us now run the client. So here at the client end, we can see that along with the error code and error description, here this is the metadata information that is getting displayed here. So the error type, it is connection refused, and the message is database error, connection is refused. So using trailer metadata, we are able to pass additional error information from the server to the client. Hope you have understood this tutorial. In the next tutorial, we'll be further modifying this example to implement global exception handler using gRPC advice. The source code we have just implemented, you can download it from here. Thank you.